cause of it all, basically, folks, is that the federal government has gone completely out of control, that where it touches the individual person, federal authority will be in a number of the different various agencies, you know. Some of them are relatively innocuous, like NOAA, National Atmospheric and Oceanic Association. Other ones, though, that are concerned with real property and value of things are extremely corrupt and criminal conspirators. The Bureau of Land Management is probably the worst of them all, followed very closely by the U.S. Forest Service. They are basically threats and intimidation, fraud, extortion,
by the government,
legal chicanery, and if necessary, armed goons are their standard operating procedure. And once again, I have to repeat, I'm speaking from firsthand experience of what I've seen in all this time, you know.
So you got there on the 9th back in 2014, the
That's
9th
correct.
of April.
That's correct, yeah.
Did you bring any food with you?
I brought some, not a whole lot. And that's an interesting topic there too, because I found out actually these actions we've been in are basically in an everything-free society. It is truly amazing the amount of support we've had from around the country. Goods of every description pouring in, everything from guns and ammunition to absolutely tons of food, to financial contributions, to camping gear, to, gosh, you name it. I can speak from firsthand on that too, because I was a cook in the Services and Supply Department, and I'm the person who received almost all of that stuff.
Did you bring a gun or a rifle with you?
No, I never did. I never was armed in any of these things, anything like that, you know.
But you brought food.
Yeah. Well,
And you mainly went there to stand with them.
Absolutely. Well, it was I think most of us, in response to stopping this out of control and criminal
Bureau of Land Management?
federal government agencies, you know. And right here, I'd like to stop and make a little quote from our Declaration of Independence. It's very ironic, and it shows how far full circle we have come. As most of us know, the Declaration of Independence has a long list of complaints that our founders had against the British government. The most common one, of course, is no taxation without representation, but there are many others, like mock trials and replacing state governors with military officers, British military officers. But here's one that is particularly apropos to where we stand with a number of these federal agencies today. Here it is. They have erected a number of agencies and sent hither swarms of agents to harass us and eat out our substance. That's from the Declaration of Independence, folks. And it exactly applies to the situation we have now with these federal agencies. We can't let it go on. We can't let it go on. As it's come out, we have very forthrightly acted in good faith in every single thing we've ever done. And we have defeated and humiliated the Federals every single time. But you can't do that kind of thing without some personal risk. We reach a point where the line is crossed and you have to simply say no. People should get over the idea, though, that you can fight a tyrannical government like this at no personal risk. It doesn't work that way, folks. We have put ourselves in line to be shot. We have put ourselves in facing considerable time in prison. The Bundys did, actually facing life in prison twice and never gave an inch. So let's see. Talk again. I don't about the
Yeah. Would you bring up the picture? Yeah. There's the Cowboys facing off. Isn't that them facing off the BLM under the bridge?
This is an April 12, 2014, a very amazing and extraordinary occurrence there when you consider the fact that a bunch of armed citizens faced down a federal army and chased them off. This is exactly what we did there that day. And
how outnumbered were you on there? They had 100 and some people.
Oh, they were outnumbered. They were definitely outnumbered.
On the 12th?
On the 12th.
But on the 9th and 10th, they weren't outnumbered. You were still having people come in, right?
Oh, I'd say yes. There's probably very, very many people coming in on those days. It's hard to make a count because the area we were in is a large area and people were camped all over the place.
Bring up that picture with Neil Wampler at the fence there facing that supercharged Dan Love with his skull cap. There, you see, there's Neil up near the top there.
About in the center.
Up in the right corner.
I don't know what this funny looking thing is here. That yellow thing?
I don't know.
What is that?
That's a flag called, I think it's...
I don't see that on our picture.
Yeah, do you have your, you didn't bring it in with you.
Well.
Anyway, there's Neil.
What is going on there at the corral gate is that Ammon Bundy is speaking to the Dan Love character. Dan Love was the lead BLM agent in that situation there. And Bundy, Ammon, is telling Dan Love the same thing he told him from the very beginning. You have to leave. He never fluctuated 1 inch.
Dan didn't take that very well, did he?
Well, he still tried to remain assertive, but I think what happened is that we pushed it so far to where some very, very drastic things were about to happen. And when the BLM higher-ups saw that, they told Dan Love to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, because they could see the bloodbath was coming.
But I have to point out that this sometimes is necessary to do this, to push this thing absolutely to the limit, to the point where what we did basically there in Tokopoash is raise the stakes higher than the Bureau of Land Management wanted to play for. And then they took their tail between their legs and got out of there.
Over 125 BLM newly minted agents. A lot of them were newly minted, and they had brand new white.
Oh God, it was ridiculous. I don't know. They
brand
had
new vehicles.
Yeah,
I mean, this was an assembled army going in to kill.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating. And we should mention one of the agents turned good guy.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that for a second.
You got his name here, Larry C. Wooten. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, Wooten was a special investigator, a Bureau of Land Management special agent investigator. I want to stress that this report he's turned in is not from some outside source. It's not web buzz. It's not some conspiracy theory that some nut came up with. This is an actual Bureau of Land Management agent himself who was sent to investigate the whole occurrences there, the who, what, and why at Bundy Ranch and everything like that. His report is absolutely scathing, damning condemnation of the Bureau of Land Management. Everybody from the boots on BLM guys there at Bundy Ranch to the higher echelons of the Bureau of Land Management. It's too large of a report. It's Larry Wooten, called Clint Wooten, W-O-O-T-E-N. His report basically, in a nutshell, characterized the Bureau of Land Management there at Bundy Ranch as a gang of armed thugs, led by a man who bragged about the people he killed. I can't read the entire report. Here it is right here.
Read the pertinent part.
But I want to read one pertinent part of it out of a long scathing indictment. Here it is. The investigation also indicated that on multiple occasions, former BLM Special Agent in Charge, Love, specifically and purposely ignored U.S. Attorney's Office and BLM civilian management direction and intent, as well as Nevada state official recommendations, in order to command the most intrusive, oppressive, large-scale, and militaristic trespass cattle impound possible. Additionally, this investigation also indicated excessive use of force, civil rights violations. The investigation indicated that there was little doubt that there was an improper cover-up in virtually every matter that a particular BLM SAC participated in or oversaw, and that the BLM SAC was immune from discipline and the consequences of his actions. As the investigation went on, it became clear to me that my supervisor wasn't keeping the U.S. Attorney's Office up to date, and basically his Wooten supervisor did not want to hear about this report. Very soon, Wooten was hastily taken off of the Bundy investigation. All of Wooten's files and records of his case were confiscated, and he was transferred off somewhere else. He began to find some way to make this report known, but finally met such resistance and such cover-up from the Bureau of Land Management higher echelons that he became desperate. I had to add in here a certain name. Lead U.S. Attorney Stephen Meyer in the Bundy et al. Case in Nevada. Stephen Meyer was the lead prosecutor against the Bundys. Wooten tried to give this report to Stephen Meyer. And when Meyer read it, he flew into a rage and told Meyer to get lost.
He told Wooten to get lost.
Excuse me, I misspoke. Meyer flew into a rage and told Wooten to get lost.
We're getting old, people. This happened years ago.
Yeah.
We're at our age, we're allowed to make a few slips.
Yeah.
But we're correct.
Wooten finally got in touch with a very admirable man, Matt Shea, a state legislator in Washington, and gave him the Wooten report. And Matt called up my dear friend and staunch reporter Sherry Duvall of Redoubt News, and Matt broke the Wooten report to Sherry, and Sherry published it. What we see here is a glimpse into a horrible, criminal, predatory, conspiring organization, the Bureau of Land Management. And I say it's no good trying to dismiss it as the rogue actions of a single agent, Dan Love. The corruption spreads all the way up into the higher echelons of the Bureau of Land Management. The ones who tried to cover this up, the ones who confiscated the Wooten report, the ones who are persecuted Wooten under as a whistleblower. It's a rotten bunch, a rotten bunch.
Yeah, let me clarify. There's another shot that was going on at the time. Neil Corsi was absolutely unqualified to be director of the Bureau of Land Management or anything. He's unqualified to be head dishwasher for anything. But he was the gopher guy for now ex-Senator Harry Reid, R-E-I-D, Harry Reid. And my information is a deal was made at a party. I don't have the audio tape of it, but the bottom line was Gloria Navarro got appointed a judge. Neil Corsi got appointed head of the BLM. Then Neil Corsi sent out orders to find somebody just like Dan Love, this crazy lunatic who we can't find anymore. The BLM has hidden him away and doesn't want him doing any kind of interview with anybody. He's a total embarrassment to the Bureau of Land Management. He should be in prison because of what this report shows. And he apparently had a kill list, written down book.
It's noted in the Wooten report, Love's kill list.
It's in this report. And he had, all the Bundys and all their relatives that must be killed, literally killed.
Well, he was also noting the people he'd killed previously or forced to caused to commit suicide.
And on page 5 of this report, I can't say these words, but here's what's part of the report. Quote, the Bundy trial 2017 leaked fed body cam evidence or a video posted on YouTube titled Leaked Body Cams from the Bundy Ranch, published by Gavin Seam. Some of these statements included the following, quote, Jack up Haig, Wayne Haig Jr., quote, are you effing people stupid or what? Fat dude right behind the tree has a long gun. Mother effing, you come and find me, you're going to have hell to pay. Fat ass slid down. The BLM had snipers already positioned at the hill.
Yeah.
And they were ready to start killing Bundys. They just needed to push the Bundys so somebody fired a shot or shook their rifle in the air, and then they were going to just start popping off and murdering the salt of the earth Bundys. I mean, these are the, you know.
All these words are actually from Tokopowash at the time when we were advancing on the Bureau of Land Management's position behind that corral gate. And it's particularly amusing to me, the one comment, that one Bureau of Land Management agent is looking at us coming toward them, and they're standing there with their guns pointed at us and everything like this. And the guy says, "Are you fucking people stupid or what?" He could not believe that we wouldn't run away. He could not believe that we were still coming at him.
And there's pictures, a lot of these guys are on horseback, and not everybody on horseback had a rifle with them.
Yeah.
But they were coming at the BLM like, you're not going to take Mr. Bundy's grazing rights. And they'd chased off, what, 20, 30 other ranchers prior to this?
They had. As a matter of fact, Cliven ranch was the last man standing.
He was the
in
last
that
man
southern part of
standing.
Nevada.
Said, I ain't giving in. My family's been, there's Harry Reid, the snake, this piece of scum that Nevada put in, I should say the mafia that runs Nevada, put him in U.S. Senate. He's the one, he had Neil Corsi appointed, his coffee, go get me coffee. That guy was put in as director of the Bureau of Land Management, oversees thousands of federal employees in the BLM. Now, what Wooten did, Wooten was a square dude. He wasn't put in there by Neil Corsi. He saw what was going on, and he got his boss to assign him to go in there and analyze what's going on. And Wooten's reports, like Neil Wampler sitting next to me, who was there, you saw him in that picture early. He's right up there with Almond, looking Dan Love in the face, practically. Right? How about you guys? But
not that far away.
but 5 feet apart. Just this corral gate between them. And they wanted their cattle back. I see Neil, he's up in the upper right corner there. He's
That's kind of big, yeah.
almost cut off his head there.
Yeah.
But there's Neil Wampler, who's sitting here. He's right there facing Dan down. And Dan's got this list, and he's got an assignment not from Mr. Wooten, but from Neil Corsi. We want these people dead. Then they're off the land, their grazing rights goes away, and the government can sell that as part of Uranium One to the Chinese or the Russians or whatever they want to do. And Cliven, when he was on my show, didn't get into that. Cliven didn't know anything about it. In fact, at that moment, you didn't know they had to kill this, did you?
I know, of course, at that time.
Nobody knew, did they?
Quite honestly, I didn't even know about this whole lands fight and the horrible abuse that had been heaped on ranchers out in the West. The whole situation and the whole question of why the federal government claims to own so much land. I had never even considered that either.
But Cliven gave you an education, I bet.
He did, yes. Or for most of us, I think it was that Pete Santilli video that morning when we saw a full-on police state in operation over there in Nevada. I say we saw that the lady that turned out to be Aunt Margaret thrown to the ground by the BLM goons. We saw the barking, snarling attack dogs. And we saw, this is funny, a rancher being tased by a BLM agent. And the amazing part about it was that he got hit by a taser. He spun around and backed up a little bit, ripped the taser out, and then turned back around, stood up real tall, came right back at him, right again. Turned right around, right back at him. And of course, that person is Ammon Bundy.
That was Ammon.
Yeah.
We interviewed him by phone one day. But at that moment, when that picture was snapped and you and Love, you didn't know that Love had a list, did you?
I never heard of any of that stuff at all, no.
This you only learned later. He was there to kill people.
Yes, of course, all these things have been emerging over time. The corrupt motives of Harry Reid, or Dirty Harry as we call him, his involvement in the whole affair like that. Of course, what it came down to for him is a prospect of making a ton of money. I want to add in here that for recalcitrant ranchers or people who won't cooperate like that with the government, the usual procedure is simply to have a court put a lien on their property. And that means that, of course, they can't sell it, it can't be inherited or anything like that. That when the property owner dies, goes back to the federal government. But Harry Reid was in a hurry. He had a whole big old gigantic business deals going, and he needed to get those Bundys cleared out of there to make it go through. This is why there was a great, from the federal side, such great urgency to have this massive attack there and chase them out. But you know, with all their criminal conspiracy, Harry Reid and Neil Corns and Dan Love and all the rest of them forgot one important factor. They were dealing with Americans, and we don't stand for that kind of thing. So they have found out differently, you know, about what they can do and what they can't do.
Yeah, it was a real learning curve for Neil Corsi. He found out going to get coffee and sending people out to kill real Americans is not quite the same thing. Hey, Neil Corsi, I welcome you to come on the show. I invite you right now, here and now, with Neil sitting next to me. Neil Corsi, William Wagener, invite you to come on the show and give me your side of the story. I'll sit back and I'll listen. Okay. I let Neil say just about everything you wanted to say. I want to point something out, though, before you show that. Yeah. I want to point something out. If you look back at the Stalin era and the bad old evil USSR, we generally call Russia, Stalin did the exact same thing to the farmers. Once he got political control, in the early 20s, he sent out his own type of SS people saying, this isn't your land anymore.
That's right.
Get off. We're going to commune the land.
At that time, they called them the kulaks.
The kulaks.
They were prosperous, independent Russian farmers.
That were doing,
and of course,
they were doing well.
The idea that they were prosperous and independent was intolerable to the communists.
Independent. The communists couldn't stand the idea. Yeah. Now look at Neil Corsi, Harry Reid, and the president at that time. Can any of you remember who was president? No, it wasn't Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. No, it wasn't George Bush. No, it wasn't Clinton. It was Obama. Mm-hmm. The Obama drama. And Obama appointed Gloria Navarro. Wait a minute. Did Gloria make a deal to get rid of the Bundys in exchange for a judgeship? Can that be proven in a court of law? Was that something she had to shut down the Bundy trial to make sure something didn't, besides the Wooten report, something didn't get on the court record?
Yeah, it was very much so. It was pretty obvious that
just asking the question.
The trial there in Las Vegas was completely going off the rails as far as the Federals and Navarro was concerned, and she ended up. Well, I'll put it briefly. The trial began with Navarro and the prosecution working hand in glove. I mean, they had the defense team gagged and hogtied. Literally, as far as any defense they could make, and Navarro allowed the prosecutor Meyer to do practically anything at all that he wanted to do. At one moment in the trial, Meyer actually was giving personal insults to the defense attorneys, if you believe that.
1 hour show.
The bizarre part of it was that despite all their efforts to hang the Bundys, the whole thing started collapsing in an absolute debacle and disaster. When Navarro saw that her reputation was going to be threatened, her whole outlook on the whole situation changed. She threw the person she'd been working with hand in glove, Stephen Meyer, she threw him to the wolves in a final day, very, very stinging excoriation of his conduct, and then dismissed the charges with prejudice.
Which the prosecutors didn't like, and they immediately appealed
they're appealing it right now. Their appeal is still going on right now, you know.
And Gloria cannot let this thing go forward, because if it does, her own butt is going to be in the meat grinder.
But you see what a corrupt bunch they are. The whole situation I described there with the judge working hand in glove with the prosecutor, I have to say that there is some working of a divine providence, actually, about when you look at some of the amazing and bizarre things that have happened. This Wooten report emerged during the Vegas Bundy et al. Trial, although it never made it